There may be other situations where you'll have to be an active bystander. One of these comes into play with alcohol and sexual assault, as 90% of campus sexual assaults involve the use of alcohol. To put things into perspective, while in college, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men will be sexually assaulted. 80% of these are perpetrated by an acquaintance or someone the person knows. A major component of avoiding sexual assault is obtaining consent. Consent should be the first step of any sexual encounter. Consent is a verbal, informed, voluntarily given, and mutual agreement to participate in a particular activity, and it can be withdrawn at any time. We like to use the phrase, consent is like fries. Freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, and specific. Some examples of ways you can ask for consent are, do you want to have sex? What do you want to do? Is it okay if I do this? How does that feel? Or should I keep going? On the other hand, consent is not the absence of no, silence, being in a relationship, making assumptions, coercing or intimidating. It's not a maybe or an I don't know or an I don't want this anymore. Understanding what counts as consent can be confusing. If you are unsure if you have consent, then the safest option is to assume that you don't. We like to say, if it isn't a hell yes, it's a hell no. One example of this is obtaining consent when alcohol or other substances are in the picture. It can be difficult to know if someone is too intoxicated to give consent, especially if you are under the influence too. When someone is under the influence of a substance, it's likely that they are experiencing lower inhibitions and impaired judgment. Another important part of obtaining consent is making sure that the other person is capable of mentally, physically, and verbally giving consent. Here are some signs that someone is too intoxicated to give consent: slurred speech, lack of balance or staggering, mental confusion, trouble concentrating, nausea and vomiting, and loss of consciousness. You can help take a stand against sexual assault by being an active bystander, holding your friends accountable, and by promoting a culture of consent. Here's another scenario to practice the 3 Ds. You're at a bar when it closes, and while waiting for an Uber, your roommate is talking to a woman who is clearly slurring her words and swaying back and forth. He tells you that he wants the room for the night for himself and his new friend. Take some time to think about what you would do in this situation. What are the signs that this person may be too intoxicated to give consent? You can be direct with the potential victim or your roommate about your concerns. You could delegate to the potential victim's friends to take care of her, or you could cause a distraction by saying that you feel really sick and need your roommate to make sure you get home. You may have to intervene in a situation where you or the potential victim might know the perpetrator. Don't assume just because you or they know them that they are not at risk. 80 to 90% of sexual assaults are most commonly perpetrated by acquaintances, and for college students, it's closer to 90%. An acquaintance could be a partner, close friend, friend of a friend, or just someone who they recognize from class or their residence halls.